That's something to. That's difficult. No, what's that? Yeah, I passed them about it, but now I don't. They're getting out of. Yeah, I can ask them for. Just no.
You would want this point, let's put it right. This is the first time everyone's seen this animal. Everybody's got it beforehand, because I noticed that the date on the report for the bond was September 4th.
Yeah, I had additional questions. I was reading that.
Okay. Yeah. It's regarding it. Yeah. Yeah. This kind of thing's not maybe. This. So I'm just. Wait, Cindy can let it cover. You talked about, so everyone had.
We don't, yes.
Yes, I think about 600,000 houses usually sit on $150. So yeah, 600,000. So it's always with the kitchen.
All right, it's 4 o'clock, so we'll convene our workshop. Item number 1 is introductions. Anybody not know anybody, please?
Mr. Mayor, before we begin, can everyone turn on their microphones, please?
That was not turned on. That was not.
Hold it until you're getting like, there you go.
You guys want?
Mr. Mayor, I just thought we'd introduce the committee members if not everyone knows them. For the audience sake as well. Myself, Tom Bryant is chair. Jeff Rosenthal, my vice chair, is unable to be here today. He's out of town. We have Brad Hoffman down to the right, Jared Cruz, Tom Wenninger, and Steve DeGroot.
Okay. Sounds good. Next agenda item was a summary of research and recommendations. This is the same thing that we went through already at our council meeting prior, right?
Right, we're just going to focus on the one recommendation regarding the city hall.
Okay.
Mayor and council members, my name is Tom Bryant and I've served as the chairman of the Government Center Citizens Advisory Committee related to a proposal for a new city hall and public works facility. On behalf of the committee, I want to thank the council for taking the time to meet with us today in this joint workshop session. After meeting for 10 months and researching the city's needs and options, a final report with recommendations was made to the council at the May 19th, 2025 city council meeting. Then in June, the council discussed those recommendations and a motion was made to accept them, but the motion failed for lack of a second. Also at that same council meeting, there were statements made that the committee did not accomplish its primary objectives. So the committee came back in July and presented the council with a supplemental report responding to how we achieved each of our objectives. For today's workshop meeting, the committee wants to focus on the recommendation regarding this current city hall building. As you recall from the committee's previous reports, we considered 4 options for this building. 1, keeping the building as is with no changes. 2, expanding the footprint of the building and remodeling this current city hall building. 3, demolishing this building and building a new one on its same site. Or 4, constructing a new city hall at a new site. The committee's final recommendation was to proceed with option number 2, to expand and remodel this building, subject to several conditions and requirements. One of those was conducting air and water quality tests. Second, undertaking what is known as a phase 2 environmental study to test the cement floor and the soil beneath it to see if they're possibly contaminated. Because the road grader used to be parked in this building and we're wondering, was there any contamination from diesel oil or diesel fuel? Third, performing a percolation soil test and obtaining a septic system design estimate to see if a septic system can be installed here on the lot for the city hall. And fourth, retaining a local architectural firm to study expansion options and create a floor plan layout for an expanded city hall to provide for private offices, a conference room, men's and women's bathrooms, storage, and an enlarged council chambers for the city council. Before opening up the workshop to input and feedback from the city council, which we would appreciate, it'd be helpful to obtain an update from our city administrator. I see that he's passed out information on the other tests. So Steve, maybe we could just ask you if you could walk us through those and what the results of the various tests were so far.
Sure, Mayor, if that is, council, if that is all right with you, I would be happy to do so.
Yeah, that's fine.
The first document is the water test. And that water test, I just received this afternoon after calling them. They have a backlog of testing that they're doing right now. So they were able to provide a preliminary report for us. We're still waiting on 5 different metals that have not come back yet. Those are anticipated to come back later this week or early next week. But what they do provide is in the packet, and you can see anything with a green check mark basically passes the contaminant test. A blue circle means that there was a contaminant detected, but not high enough that it's anything that we can learn about. A yellow triangle means that contaminant was detected that was above the standard, but not enforceable by the EPA. A red cross means that it's something that can be enforceable by the EPA. We don't have any red crosses. We do have several yellow triangles and a lot of blue circles, a lot more green check marks, which is good. So overall, I haven't had a ton of time to review what exactly the issues with the yellow triangles would be yet, but I wanted to get that out to you for tonight's meeting, so we had that. The next
Before you move on, I have a question. So do we have an expert that says that this shouldn't be an issue if we wanted to do something at the site? I mean, how do we know that? Because I'm not a water expert. Who's gonna tell us that this
Sure.
is satisfactory to continue?
when we get the full report,
They will-
it will have, you know, kind of what that lays out and what the concerns would be with that. So again, this is just preliminary. I just had to call, I did it this afternoon, otherwise we wouldn't have anything to do tonight.
Okay, so do you think that they will tell us that we can build on the site, or we have to get off it because it's not safe? Who determines that? Do they determine that with their?
They won't determine that they'll just tell us what the contaminants could mean for anyone that drinks the water.
Okay. Thank you.
Steve, do you know exactly what they were sampling? What waters they were sampling? Were they actually going down to the well level? Or
No,
was it tap water?
I did the sampling, I pulled it from the faucets here,
Okay,
which is
that's
how
it.
they require us to.
Okay.
There's no water treatment or filtration in between, so
Yeah. If it wasn't.
Steve, I have a question. There's a yellow triangle for hardness. Does the city hall have a water softener or doesn't have a water softener?
there's no treatment.
Okay,
Take it back, there's a filter,
Small.
small one.
So a treatment could take some of these blue circles away, possibly.
Possible.
Well, even reverse osmosis, right? It's just for drinking water. It's now people are showering here. Flush the toilets and filter the drinking water. Worst case scenario. Is there an irrigation system on property?
So the next piece of paper is an email from Bront Intertech, which does sampling, which would do sampling under City Hall flooring. So this quote is to drill through the floor and into the soil. It's for 2 samples. Everything is laid out, what that would look like in this form. $6,100 is what that quote came back for. Happy to go out and get more quotes. This company was recommended by Vaughn, so that's why we gave them a call. Again, they note here that this is not for VOCs in the air, which I have provided that information to everyone already about the air. There aren't any VOCs in the air, so that's good. Other than dust in City Hall, the air quality is really good, so.
Steve, a question. It's gonna take 2 soil samples. Does that include sampling the cement in case anything has been, embedded in the cement slab, or is it just the soil beneath?
That would be the cement into the soil.
Okay.
So that whole, and that's, this quote is only for 2. They didn't say how many we would require. I just needed a number for tonight for you to look at. So if we require 6, obviously this will be 3 times the amount.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this quote? And then the last quote is from Bond for septic design. They also included an initial estimate for an installation of a mound system. The quote, however, for the septic design is $1,200. I did ask if this had been looked at by Scott County yet. They said they don't submit anything to Scott County until the design is completed, which would require us to sign a vote and pay for that. So we don't know if this design would be approved by Scott County or not. I provided a drawing of where the mound system is estimated to go, as well as a setback map from our city engineer. That is both a building setback along with the septic. The septic setback is the black dashed line in that. The red is the building setback for any building on the property. There is some discrepancy on where the boundary line is. Obviously, you can see by the picture, it's not. We may require a survey to get the actual property lines for City Hall if we move forward on anything, just because of Crestview Lane was added and Meadowview Lane. So that's something we would have to look at as well. And then, of course, in the quotes, under the notes, it does not include any, ripping of frost if we decide to do it later, seeding of sod. So there are additional costs on top of this quote that would need to be covered as well.
So do we know where the tank is at currently?
Right,
Yeah,
pretty
right.
much.
Same spot?
Well, it's a little bit this side of the trees.
So I'm having a difficult time reading this. Does that mean that based on what we're seeing from Scott County GIS and from Shane, that there is room for that mound system?
That's where Bond thinks so, yes. So he has a drawing right over the top of it.
But then from Shane, either from Hawkinson and Anderson, they've got that placement here, which implies that it fits.
No, that applies, no, it's in the setback. The red's the setback. So if you take the setback, build the setback,
So this is our current, where our current holding tank is, and then the one before that is where Bond is supposed to put the mound system. So.
But that's in the setback, which wouldn't work. Is that how I'm reading that?
this is where an opinion from the regulatory. Or regulatory office would need to have an opinion on that, because they have their ordinance that says, here's the setbacks. Shane drew the setbacks on this piece, on this map. Yet Bond is proposing to be within that setback. Completely.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Jane.
if we also located the approximate location or the location of wells on the adjacent properties. And their setbacks. And we have our well. Is located. And what is the distance?
Shane did not put that on.
When Bond does these though, they look at the properties and make sure that it wouldn't upset the property next door, don't they? I mean, that's what they did with when they were building my house. I mean, I saw measurements to my neighbor's well and all that. I assume that when they're doing this, they're not writing a quote, they're not putting together specs for something that's not gonna work. This is what they think is gonna work, correct? Okay.
But this is also their preliminary, right? They haven't
This is
actually
just
done anything.
Pricing,
Correct.
but they don't have, they're not saying that they can complete an accurate design.
Right.
I didn't understand, I guess that, why do you say that? They don't know?
Well. There's nothing in here that says that we can actually design and provide a septic system for Credit River on this property that passes everything. There's just a quote that basically says how much they would do it for if they could do it. And they also they offer to design the system. But there's nobody that's actually done that yet. I would be more interested in seeing a survey, a price for a survey, not from them, that shows that they can, that they've actually measured it, studied it, and that they can provide us with a working design. This doesn't actually answer any of the questions that we need to know today. Unfortunately,
It appears you're not gonna get that unless you pay for it.
right.
Yeah.
Right, so, I guess I would be looking for maybe a different price from them. And maybe we need to go back to them and ask them to, do basically survey it to make sure that we understand, that they understand that they can actually design something that will pass.
Well, I think that's the $1,200
That's the
price.
$1,200
Is that-
Right, that's the
Yeah.
price, right? So the price is set for them to
Well-
do that design and then.
Well, that's the whole design.
And it is, right?
I don't know if they would.
So don't you wanna pay the $1,200 is to do exactly?
Well, I'm just wondering if there was a lesser fee, for a lesser scope of work than a full design of the septic system. Be submitted, is there?
I guess you can get competitive bids.
No, it's not a bid. I mean, we're looking
Well,
for a
it is.
professional. Yes, but you're looking for a professional. To give you, to give you their opinion of whether or not they can actually complete a design that passes.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like what they're saying is that for $1,200.
They'll design it,
Design.
they'll submit it,
Submit it. to
and then
the
it can be
companies.
reviewed and see if it passes. So we've basically spent $1,200 on it.
Would we be able to go to the county and present something like this and say, would this fit if the design works?
We don't have it. I don't think there's enough information on here. We don't actually have the dimensions.
When I spoke with the County Environmental Services Director, she indicated that they only look at the design and then indicate whether that is workable or not. They wait for a professional to submit a design, and Bond Well Drilling is on a list of professionals
Okay.
to submit designs in
So-
the county.
Then we need to basically spend the money for a design, whether it works or not.
Whether it's bond or not.
What was I was?
Yeah.
And submit it and see if we can get it approved.
And if I'm not mistaken, the design has an effect on the soil classification, other soil testing, I believe too, whether they can put in a well or tanks or,
Mhm.
sorry, not well, but leach pad or now under any other design. But I think just to touch on what Bill's talking about too, from a contractor aspect, I would think they're pretty competent to be able to even offer a quote if they think that they could get it done otherwise. And also from a liability aspect with the neighboring wells as well, if there were. if
Well,
there was a
I mean,
high
they're-
risk,
they're,
they would have to.
Their quote for it says septic system design includes site visit, boring,
Mhm.
and design packet. So, in order to do that, then there's probably a submission fee to Scott County,
Oh, yeah.
for permit. And, I guess we if we want to go forward, then what we need to do is we need to just budget into our.
Permitting is in the quote.
Right, so we need to get that broken out because we need to figure out if we can get a permit before we can do anything. Which looks like it, so it looks like we're spending. 2270. In order to find out if we can do this.
Steve, I have a question on the two maps. Shane drew the map with the lot line in yellow. And then the septic setback is in a dashed black line. So it'd be my understanding, anything between those dashed lines would be space on the lot where a septic system could be installed.
No, it would need to be outside the dash lines.
Well, if you're
The
outside,
setbacks,
within it.
the setbacks
it
are
has to
the,
be I would think within it. If that's the case, then our current city hall building is within the is violating that too. It's like a easement line.
so
You
the
can't.
county road moved after this building was built.
Well, I'm just looking at the current map. You have the yellow property line, then you have the dashed black line, maybe 10 feet in from the property line. And then everything else.
So that might be, so actually, Tom, maybe that might be from the side yard setbacks, that is the setback, but then you have the building setback. I guess we need to have some clarification from Shane.
From Shane, right.
Of this,
Well, yeah, when I read his legend. He's got a building setback, which is the orange or red.
Yeah.
And then he has a separate.
Right.
Septic system setback, and I think what Tom's saying is if it's within that. Perimeter,
Dash line.
the dash line perimeter, it could be built.
but
The only thing that's
probably
missing.
the setback from from the lot lines.
Correct. Correct.
And then you also have a setback from.
From the.
No, but-
Yeah,
And
and
the build.
right, and we have a setback also from the neighboring well,
And the neighbor
which
built.
we don't know where it is.
Right.
Which we need to find out.
So,
There's two properties that might or might not. Bear on that.
Based on the size of the circle around our well, it looks like it would probably clear.
I think, I think 50 feet.
It's
is the-
75, if I'm not mistaken, for Minnesota.
also, when I talked with Scott County Environmental Services, they prefer a septic tank system with a mound. But they would also consider an enlarged holding tank if the septic system wouldn't fit. It's not their preference, it's like third or fourth down the option list, but they would consider that and consider approving that if the other kind of systems don't work. So if Bond comes out, does their site review and submits a design, and the county says that won't work, you also have a fallback then of enlarging the holding tank. We have a 2,000 gallon holding tank now, which could be enlarged and then would be pumped. But they could do that as well. That is one possible option according to Scott County.
I thought we had. A holding tank currently that was larger than that.
No, they have it on the permit. It's about 2,000 gallons.
2,000?
Right on the
Right
permit.
at 2,000?
Yep.
But the amount of time, I don't know if you don't see, but for this year, how many times have you pumped it? With the current work, with staff in the office, it's between 3 and 5 weeks. I talked to, just happened to have my tank pumped by. Same company as does yours. And the same guy that's pumping mine was the same guy that comes over here and pumps this one. He said it's only been done 3 or 4 times this year so far. But you guys have also had a staff that's been much smaller than you would probably think that you end up with, so. You know, I think. What I heard from. The designer, you know, maybe 20 gallons per day per person. Would be a way to estimate it. So you're still gonna be fine. And. But that's just a lower level alternate. I mean, that's kind of what it works, even with the tank, yeah, right now.
Where do they see it?
$500 or $600 a pump.
Yeah.
Doesn't get, it's not that expensive.
couple $1,000s a year, even if we double it, because we put twice as much here, it's not a prohibiting factor.
Yeah.
So I think from the committee's perspective, we have an estimate from a professional, it's on Scott County's professional septic list. It's for the council to consider at an upcoming meeting to authorize the payment. So we know whether a septic system can fit behind the building or not, or do we have to go to a different option like a larger holding tank? To see if this building can be then remodeled and expanded to suit the city's needs. And the same would be for the core testing. Those are just general answers that we need. Whether we remodel this building or not, is the soil contaminated? Is the cement slab contaminated? And that would impact, working here, the employees that work here. So those questions need to be answered whether or not we remodel this building. Any other input on the testing from committees?
Well, I think at this point, there isn't really anything that we can't, other than the soil testing, which might make it expensive to remodel, right? That's the biggest problem.
Mhm.
We could always dig out every bit of contaminated soil, but it would cost a fortune potentially.
Right.
The water, we put a reverse osmosis system in for drinking, we put bottled water in. It's not really a showstopper. The septic, we have a solution for, whether we do a full septic field or a bigger holding tank, there's a solution for that. And neither one of them are expensive.
And
Expensive.
one thought with, like you mentioned. With soil remediation, whether it was, like you said, old soil or contaminated soil removed and new soil brought in, it would be expensive. But wouldn't it be the responsibility of the cost of the city regardless whether they rebuilt or not?
Yeah, I would think,
I'm just-
regardless of what we do with the building, we're probably never gonna be able to sell it as long as there's contaminated soil on it, so. It's a cost we're probably stuck with that way. Hopefully, that's just not the case.
Right, like you said, worst case
We
scenario.
should find out. Or at my house, I'd probably try and hide it forever, but I think we should probably find out.
Steve, thank you for the tests and getting this information to us. That's very helpful. It'll be up to the council to decide whether or not to spend those funds to do the additional testing of the septic design. Any other feedback from the council on these tests?
Yeah, I'd go back to the water test. First item, total coliform. They said it was present, but they can't actually. However, bacteria results may be invalid due to collection information or lack of collection information because sample has exceeded the 30-hour hold time. Does that mean that we need to retest?
That one does have a red X by it.
What's that?
It does have a red X and a yellow triangle.
Yeah, I mean, does that mean that we need
The
to get
X is
something?
invalid, not
That's,
above the EPA.
Just because the sample is too low.
it could be.
But I mean, I would never drink the water that I just wash my hands in because it stinks. So regardless, we're gonna put a reverse osmosis system, right?
Well,
So that we have drinking water.
I'm just questioning whether or not we need to get it retested. Because that would be that would probably be one of the more important ones that I would want to look at. And they're saying that they can't actually give us a test on this.
Steve, you have to, how do you get the sample to the testing company? Do you have to mail it or FedEx?
Yeah, we
it,
ship
or-
it overnight. It goes to Michigan. They did receive it on time. So I think it's gonna be a lack of collection information, not because of the whole.
Okay.
I received an email stating when it was received. It was within the 24-hour period, so.
Okay, thank you.
So to summarize, we don't really know yet.
Not on the water testing. It's been what?
Well, I'm less concerned about the water testing. I'm more concerned about the septic system because we don't have a design. I go back to, and maybe it's something that Steve can go back to Bond and say, can you just tell us that you designed this because you never guarantee it's gonna work, but in your expertise, this is what could be done. I also have a question about the way they frame their email. It says our quotes are provided as design install projects. So by agreeing by the quote, we would take care of the project from beginning to end. We don't offer just the design portion without completing the entire installation. The question is, once they get the design done, we don't want to, if it doesn't work, we don't want to pay them the $40,000. So can we have two contracts? Do we have this design? I don't know how it would work, but I don't want to pay for something that's not going to work. It maybe,
I think what they're saying was, they'll give you a design,
yeah,
you're gonna get charged $2,200.
yeah,
If they bring a successful design to you, they don't want you to go hire
Sure.
ABC plumbing down there.
Yeah.
And save $5,000. They
right,
want to be the installer if it gets installed.
yeah.
That's what they're saying.
Okay,
I don't think there's a problem with that.
it's not a problem. This is pretty standard.
I don't know what you think.
No, I think you're correct on that.
Yeah, I think that's okay though.
If you're concerned, you can always say contingent upon successful design this. accepted.
Okay. So we're talking 6,100 for the soil test that hasn't been done yet. And do we know when they could get around to do that?
They didn't say, I just asked for a quote. I don't think they would be too far out as far as timeline. It's only a one day project, so.
Right. And then 2271, 1,200 for design on the septic and 1,070 on the permits if we have to pay that too. So that's total 6,100, 1,200, 1,070, $8,370 is what we're talking about. To determine whether we can build on this site or not. Is that accurate?
And what else have we spent already? We already had an air test. How much was that?
So in total, it's gonna be around $500 so far for the air and the water testing.
But those are sunk. I mean, we already agreed to those.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to know what the council thinks. I think those are reasonable to proceed that we do this. That we had the soil test done and the design for the bond system. So is that something that everyone agrees that we could put that on the agenda for the next meeting?
I think we should move forward and look at the rest of it, and we can weigh that as an option.
Okay.
They don't seem to be that bad, I think, and I think we also talked about possibly having an architect look at this and do actually a feasibility study on what we could do with this thing. What needs to be done for updates and everything else, and we should probably consider that cost too.
Sure, but if we find out, we don't have to hire that person though, if we find out.
I agree, but that should still be part of what gets thought about here.
Sure,
And then there's other, we should probably look at everything else. I don't want us to sit here and get blinders on our head, that just says that this is the only way that we can go. I think we ought to look at everything and then understand it a little better. After all these guys did a year's worth of work on it.
Steve, on the bond well drilling quote, the 1,070 for permitting, I'm wondering if that would not be charged until after the county looks at the design and approves it, and then the council decides to proceed. So I don't know if we'd be paying that up front if it's just the 1,200 for the design, but the permit, when it's issued to go ahead, then you pay the 1,070. So it may not be right away, it may be 30 days down the road after the county reviews and then it would approve the design. It's just a question.
I would guess.
Out of pocket.
Yeah, I would guess though that the permit, you're submitting the permit, and part of the cost of the permit is to get the review complete.
For B10,
That could be.
So I would look at,
we collect our money.
if we submit for a permit and we go in for this thing, and everything else, that we're gonna pay the designer for the work, whatever work they've done for it, whether it passes or fails. And we're gonna pay for the permit and the review of it. So regardless, I mean, the question is whether or not we come out of here with a permit or not. If we come out with a permit, then we can start thinking about all of the next step, but.
And the next step being an architectural design.
Well, that or maybe, I had said this during the meetings as well, that we should probably think about getting an architect at least to look at it. It doesn't have to do a design.
Right.
It just look at it, go through it.
Wouldn't an architect, just like when you're buying a new home, they do a
They don't do trees free.
It wasn't free from my house.
Yeah.
I was
You're asking,
I was gonna go home and they did it.
you're asking a professional to perform a service to us, so they need to be paid. Maybe that's,
These other steps done first.
yeah. I mean, it's something that we absolutely need to know that. I mean, all of those things need to be figured out before we go forward with it. But I, for one, even if we're just talking about keeping the building and doing nothing. We went through some meetings, where we had, there is definitely some problems with the security, thoughts, or at least a feeling of being safe in the building. A few other things, what we need to do with it. It wouldn't hurt. And that's what I had suggested before, to have somebody come in here and just make a list for us. Whether we're not paying them for design, we're paying them for their time. It may be as little as a day or two, a couple of days to do a report and look at it. I think that would be smart, because then you're basically getting a professional, an accredited professional, go through the thing, tell you what's wrong with it. And, rather than us guessing.
I don't think we're guessing. I think we got a pretty good idea.
I think we do too, but there's, there's some things that obviously the doors, we have a door we have an exit door that swings in. When I walked up here
in a day.
and actually when I walked in here today, it wasn't latched. It was just, it kind of half closed, but it wasn't latched.
Shouldn't that have already been replaced? Didn't you talk about it a couple meetings ago?
We never approved anything.
We haven't approved anything yet.
There's some.
There's floating around, but
But yeah, I mean, there's some things that we should be doing, and I think, I don't think it's wrong to not consider having a professional look at it and look at the rest of it. Look at the true condition of the building. I mean, what are the footings here? Is all of this just a waste of time for us to go through all of this when we might be looking at other options?
Well, if you look at another option, you gotta secure this building anyway. So a door makes logical sense to fix it now. I don't know what the big deal is. It's just a door.
Mhm.
So to me, securing the building as is right now, you have to do that because you're not gonna tear it down. Unless it's contaminated soil or something like that. Then you got a different problem.
Mhm.
It's a dirty dirt problem, then it's a bigger issue, but let's try to err on the positive side and think that that's not the case.
The concept plan that you guys put together back in May, I mean, that contemplated having a secure
Yeah.
vestibule.
Safe room.
The vestibule is inset you have to go through two doors. The interior door would be locked, have to be buzzed in by the city clerk, which would sit right next to that, with glass between the two. But yes, it involves security, yes.
And I would guess that those plans will change considerably. That's why you hire a professional.
Yes.
You didn't hire, or you didn't get any architects on your, I think, here, but. I
Yeah,
think-
we had talked about having one.
Yeah, so, the suggestion would be for committee is, first of all, get the gang back together again. And we'll help you find a couple local architects. That would be, not everybody's gonna be able to handle this space. Right. Some people are gonna think this is just a waste of their time. I think we can get a couple local organizations to look at it. And the idea in my thought would be, get it to the point where there's some conceptual drawing, just so the floor plan, kind of maybe some narrative that would allow a price to be put together, so you guys know what the cost, the way that versus some other alternative. I mean, all of our recommendations are really just get to the point of having a concept and a cost that you can look at, say, this makes sense, or this doesn't make sense. That's where we're going to get to. And the sooner we can do it, the better. I mean, I know things take a lot of time, but it's not that big of an issue here. We can get through it. We need to have somebody say, yeah, go ahead and continue. That's your mission. Go do it. Guys, we can help Steve. I think if he wants to. That's what I would suggest.
And I would go back, I do appreciate Hawkinson's and Anderson's preliminary sketch that they've done or of setbacks. But I direct everybody's page or attention back to that last page of the septic quote packet. And obviously, we have some building setback issues as well, if we're gonna put an addition on this thing, based on what the information he's given us. Now, I don't know if that's accurate, how accurate that is with measurements and dimensions, but you know, when I look at the overlapping of the photos, that gives me concern.
Yeah, it looks like he's calling Credit River Boulevard front door, right? Cause that's the big, that's the big,
Yeah, but then there's also the side yard setback, which looks like it occupies
but yet the address.
10 feet of the building.
Isn't the address Meadow Lane?
I think that one, Steve, is the county road setback. County road setbacks are 150 feet from the middle center line of the road.
I'm looking at
Where the difference is, that's why the other one, our side yard ordinance is 10 feet for the drainage and utilities, that's the one on the east side of the building. And then I think we're 66 then from the center line of Meadowview. That would be a standard city setback. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just concerned about actually how accurate he's drawn it in, because what he's drawn in looks like it occupies about
You know, you
10
look
feet
at
of the eastern portion of this building.
It looked
Well,
like the
no,
roof line
the eastern
extends
portion.
into the
Like it
setback.
comes to
yes.
the edge of essentially where our attorney is sitting.
Again, so most of that, you gotta remember when this building was built,
It was before things had
the
changed.
county road wasn't where it is today.
Yeah.
And there wasn't development next door, so it is an existing non-conforming.
Right. So where again, this would be where if we had an architect that.
It's one of those things where if the
Went
building,
out here
if
and
the
looked at
building
it, he
fell
could tell
down,
us what he could build.
the building fell down today, you wouldn't be able to rebuild it either.
Correct.
Unless we get a variance from the county.
You would be able to rebuild.
You think so?
You'd have a grandfather.
Non-conforming use has been grandfathered in, you can. Repair, replace, you can't expand it, but if it burned down or something, you're allowed to rebuild it. Without expanding.
Got a match.
There's a, yeah.
Does he feel
You burn it out in the soil, we solve all the problems.
So Peter, here's a question. So if we wanted to expand it, as long as we expand it within the non-red area.
So if this is the city setback, my advice would be you can expand
We could
within
change it.
the areas outside the setback. Because you are not increasing the nonconformity. I don't know how the county looks at that.
Would there be any permitting process we have to go through the county, or would the city simply decide to proceed?
To work in the county's setback to go through the county.
Okay.
But we're not. We're doing it, but the expansion just be the city.
Yeah, I'm just answering the question.
Yeah.
So I'm not suggesting that we're doing one thing or another.
No, but if the only expansion is in the city setback.
Well, here's a question.
Yeah, I would still want to know what the county's position is. I think there is a difference of opinion among attorneys about whether you can do anything to expand the building that's already in the setback. My opinion is one, to let people do what they want to, as long as they're not going more into the setback. Others may feel differently.
Well, here's a question. Is this our setback? Or is it a state required or another entity's required setback for the property line? Our side yard clearance on the east side yard. Is it our legislation that requires this distance, or is it somebody else's?
When you mean our, you mean Credit River?
In our ordinance.
Yeah, city ordinance. has setbacks.
Correct, the side yard setback is the drainage utility easement is in our ordinances.
Is it something that we can change? And that's just.
Or
Right, all the variance.
Well, I mean, we go through our.
You can apply for a variance.
Peter, you,
I think we have a number of issues that we are speculating on, so I think, most efficiently, we should have a list of action items to investigate somebody that actually has the answer.
Make it one.
Well, I think the list of action items would include possibly redoing the water test if they didn't do it within the 30 hours. You're saying no?
It's not that. He said it was, they
It was
didn't
there.
have the data. He's just gotta get the data.
Okay.
That's not an issue
And then
until it was an issue.
for the council to decide whether you do the septic design and then the soil boring. And then I suppose try and find out the exact location of these septic setbacks and building setbacks to know whether we could expand or not. Because our initial recommendation was expand toward the parking lot by 30 feet. But you've got the wellhead there. I'm not sure what the distance is from the north end of the building to the wellhead, but you have to be so many feet from the wellhead. But those kind of questions. And some will cost money.
No, I think we should go back and get the water. Because as I read this, it says. Total coliform bacteria was present in this sample and E. coli was absent. However, bacteria results may be invalid due to lack of collection information. So if there was some in it, that's not good. Do
We
need
don't
to-
have all the data.
We don't have it. So that's where, how it was presented or not, they didn't actually give us they didn't give us a level.
Steve,
Did it actually get tested?
Well,
Or
that
did they just not test it
additional-
because they couldn't do it? Or they said they
Well, that
felt that
might
they
be
couldn't
one
do
of
it?
the items that isn't back yet.
Okay. Okay. So we just really need to wait to get the rest of it. And then we should probably think about doing something with that. Because if there is bacteria present in our drinking water. Whether we're washing with it, whether we're doing whatever with it, that's not healthy. I mean, and we should know that. I think it's more to call again. This
So
isn't
you
just a
got,
filter.
there's different drinking water if that's the case.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think, I agree with what was said earlier, that I don't think the water is gonna be the issue. I think the volume is gonna be coming, it's gonna be clearly the septic and whether a building can even be built.
Right, I'm very concerned if this is true, that we want to expand, which you guys are considering to do that, because for future staff and all that stuff that we may need, with only how do we expand in this? Based on that.
Build it closer to the other road.
As Peter indicated, the city
According to the
could
map,
apply for and grant
that
a
setback
variance
county-
potentially.
A variance though,
Right over
not
here.
from this, not from this. Not for this, right, because the county would
Yeah,
have
but
to
look
grant
where you
that.
are. You're
We'd have
going to have an offset of the building.
Right,
I know, I'm just saying it could be done. You're just gonna move the parking lot around.
You can apply to the county for a variance,
Okay,
whether they'll grant it or not, no, if you can apply.
and if the eastern side setback is based on the city ordinance. Which the mayor indicated it most likely is,
It is.
then. The city
Yeah.
could look at doing whatever it needs to expand that out.
When we were doing our research on this for the last year. I don't recall. Ever seen any information or documentation that any of this testing was done before. I know there was a soil test done. When the proposal for that other facility, for the government center was done.
Not here.
Not here, it was for the land that they were looking at. But was anything ever done here that you can recall or proposed or thought about, or, because this can't be new to you guys, you have to have known some of this.
Once upon a time, there was a fuel oil barrel buried between the building and the well. And the NPCA, somebody complained to the NPCA, and they came out and dug a lot of dirt out.
Was
Filled
it
back
leaking?
in. Don't know, I don't think it was.
Okay,
I think because it was full of water, my understanding, that was. Where's Leroy? He was here, but I think he was the only one. I only know about it because I heard about it. Was not on the board at the time, it was probably. Early 2000s, or middle 2000s.
And that was what fuel tank for
It
graders.
was no, it was a fuel, they
Oh,
used
for
to have
the,
a fuel oil furnace in
okay.
here.
Sure.
Or natural gas is here.
Mayor,
when you, I think there was a meeting that you referenced that there had been tests taken. And it was clear as far as the fuel oil goes in the soil. That was my, if I remember right. Was that what they referred to?
Yeah.
As far as the footprint of the building, you're not aware of anything?
No,
Okay.
no,
Thank you.
I would highly doubt it. I mean. If it was leaking enough, if the snowplow that was here was leaking that much oil. I don't know that we'd have anything sticking to this floor. The old paint didn't stick to the floor, by the way. I took a, yeah, and it would bubble up.
Mhm.
You could poke holes in it.
Could be any
That
moisture.
was an oily substance that was coming out of it. If there was like the paint would bubble up and you'd fill it with a clean. And like an oily substance would leak out. So it's probably half water. No, you did not throw a match at it. Should have, it was then it would change the whole discussion, just like you said before, Tim.
But it's probably diesel, then it's one part of the smell, is it?
It probably had some, but for that to penetrate the slab and the tank, right, so you're actually gonna see anything. And I think that would be, you'd have to spill an awful lot.
Does it say over 10? I'm sure it's separated into the other components of.
Yes.
So, Mr. Mayor, can I?
Yes,
Say a
go
few
ahead.
things? So, did we think about this whole process? We have a government center city advisory committee. They come with recommendations. At no point do they have the authority to approve anything other than here's what we as a collective group has. My question to the four of us would be on the August 18th meeting, there was a lot of discussion around another option. My concern with going and doing this is if we're doing it just to satisfy this group, but we have no intention of doing anything with this building, I don't think it's a good use of our time. I think it's a great idea to do that, to make sure we understand all of our options, but I just don't want to play any more games. So that August meeting really drove me crazy. So I want to make sure we don't do that again. So if the intention is we're not going to do something with this building, if we can, let's just not go down this path and let's start talking about other paths. That's my statement. So I'm not sure if others on the council have an interest in looking at this option or not.
Can I make a,
Well, hold on, let the council maybe talk first. I'd like to go down this path and see if it can be done. This is my preferred option. Some of the others workshop. This is right, this is everything. So that would be my goal, is to see if this option works. If it doesn't, then I'm all for looking at the other options. That is my position.
Jay or Chris?
I'd throw in a couple more things. I think it was, correct me if I'm wrong, this was a resident that sent some quotes for some mobile offices, Steve, that you put out in a.
Hold on, we're talking
No,
about this.
I want to make sure I get this straight as I go, okay? Was that an option? Was that from a resident?
Yes.
Okay, so, there's,
No, he owned property, but he's not a resident.
okay,
That's that guy.
all right, yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
Property owner instead.
All right, so, I mean, I just, what I wanna say is that I saw something else, where we, put in temporary facility. Whether it's for remodel or whether it's for actually, permanently housing for a temporary period of time. That, we also have a rent option that we're aware of now, which may or may not still be available. And then it was suggested to us by the same group, in a meeting that they held in, I think it was July. That there was a rental option available for housing staff, in the thing. So my thoughts on this are, it could also be a combination of something. I don't know that this building is really, to me, I don't think that this building is worth saving as offices. I think it's worth probably using for a period of time as the meeting place, the voting place, where we would hold the city council meetings, planning commission, and any meetings. And probably be able to, if we moved some things out and made other arrangements, we could store our voting machines here, we could do some other things with it. we wouldn't have to do much more than fix the doors, do a few things, probably not change anything.
So if
And
that's
this
the
would be a
position, why are we
temporary- and
talking
that's-
about this?
And that's, well, but I think that some of this is still relevant because I think we still want to know.
Who cares about water if
Okay.
we're not gonna do
Yeah.
anything here?
I don't care as much about the water either. I'm looking at whether or not there's an ability to build on this thing or to expand it or do anything else. And I've really come to the conclusion that I don't believe that there is. But I do see it has a value to us as a place, as a partial place. I personally would rather explore the rental option, at least for now, which is a 10-year option, a 5 to 10-year option. For actually not a whole lot of money. That seems to solve a lot of the problems that we may or may not have in the future and currently. Without spending any more money, other than what we might need to in order to make sure that we can occupy this as a meeting place, a voting place.
So
That's-
Leroy, before you came in, my question was, why are we talking about this if the city council has no desire to do anything with this building? And so my opinion was, I think this is a valid option. Bill thinks it is a valid option. So far, Jay does not think it's a valid option. Do you have an opinion?
Yeah, if you're gonna do any kind of remodeling here, we should get someplace to put these folks to do their job.
Temporary.
Right.
Okay, but do you think it's
Temporary
worth, do you
during-
think it's worth investigating to see if this is even a possible option?
This building,
Yes.
Remodel and expansion.
I think we should find a piece of land where we can expand on. Put something up. To put up a decent building. I mean, this thing is. It's used up its lifespan. To do something here, you'd have to. Start all over, so.
So that is a no, you don't think we should spend our time?
No, I don't think we should.
Chris, what do you think?
I agree with Leroy when he said that this building is used as life. You only get so much blood squeezed out of a turnip. Our roads in this city don't last as long as this building's been used for this. We have a capital improvement plan to replace our roads. I think if any money spent doing these things is money that could be used for a future plan, whether that future plan meant building something today or in 5 or 10 years, I don't know. I'm more interested in looking at a plan for the future, something that is expandable, something that we can plan for. I don't think that even if we spent all this money and rehab this building, it's still not a plan for the future. It's a short plan. Because this building was never built with the intention of housing offices and being here for this long. It was basically an agricultural building that's been adapted to offices.
So, just for the note, we spent 55 minutes talking about something that we had no intention of doing.
We spent a year on it.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm gonna say something, because I'm pissed off right now. I've heard you say, Jay, that you didn't want to do anything, we didn't need to do anything, I even heard you say that, Chris. We didn't need to do anything with this building. But here we are, talking about land. And then you threw in a rental or lease option out of the blue, which we had no knowledge of. During this whole process and where we are today, I felt like we were misled. We weren't given the correct parameters to do the study properly that you said we didn't do our job. I take offense to that because I thought we did a really good job. And I personally believe that something can be done here. Now, why you guys decide all of a sudden that we can't do something, we gotta go do something else, doesn't make any sense to me. Particularly when on a lease option, we have cheaper lease options than you're proposing. So what frustrates me the most is, first of all, being told we didn't do our job. We did our job. Our recommendations were not voted on. Now I understand why, because you guys have no intention on doing anything with it. Another waste of time. So we wasted our time for a year And if I billed you, you wouldn't like my bill, because I'm not cheap per hour. So that pisses me off. And then the fact that we threw in this monkey wrench of a lease, and now the whole land thing. We were talking about land, and it was gonna be one of the things we were supposed to talk about, and then we found out it wasn't part of our scope. We brought it back into the scope in January, then we found out in March. No land, so we took it off the table. Am I wrong?
No.
So. Then we're going through the process, we don't get our recommendations voted on, a simple second. We would have been right here if that would have been voted on anyway. And whether you do anything or not, these tests are probably gonna have to be done. Because if it's contaminated land, you gotta clean it up. EPA is gonna make you. If it's not contaminated land, then we go forward with some of these options that we've been discussing. I wanna be able to come to an agreement as homeowners, taxpayers, which you guys are in this city as well. Cause this is not a township anymore, it's a city. So you're gonna be under a different microscope than you were before. And we just wanna be able to do what's most economical from a tax standpoint, which is why we're here in the first place. Cause you heard us fired up a year ago at those meetings. And then find out what the best solution is. If the solution is not to do this. And a lease of something, I don't think the lease you propose is a solution. Or something different, because it hasn't been talked about. Or buying land. If those are the solutions, we as a committee will help you do that. I don't think we should be fighting about this. We should try to find a common ground and work together to find the best solution for the property or for the homeowners in this city. Am I wrong?
No, I don't disagree. That's exactly.
Then how did we get here?
Well, how does spending $500,000 over the next 5 years renting someplace benefit the taxpayers when we can stick the money in this building and have something going forward? And this will be a crappy building once we spend some money and model it.
It's going to be a 20-year, we're gonna have it for a long, it's not like it's not like we're just like, put it ain't on a pig or whatever that lipstick on a pig, it's like. It would be nice, and it would be useful for another 20 years.
We can make it match this marquee.
Why would it
Because I
not?
think over 20 years, you're gonna see some growth in here that's gonna require some additional staff that we don't have space for. yet.
Well, in all honesty, with going back to the 80s, the growth is consistent at roughly 2%. It's, again, you can look from Credit River's own information, the Met Council and everything else. It's, I mean, 5,500 people over, again, I have the records.
Yeah, so
whatever, but
So
it's
Jared,
not.
that could change rapidly because the kind of growth that's happened in Clear River has been pretty low density.
Yes, but it's
all it
also
would take
highly
is one-
unlikely, personally.
You keep planning everything based on speculation of all this big growth. We're gonna be, you proposed a $10 or $20 million building, the Taj Mahal.
We didn't propose that.
Yes, you did.
No, we did not. That, we
Phase
did
one for
not.
$10 million.
It was never
Well,
proposed.
We spent $42,000 for the swing.
We weren't
we didn't do
pursuing a
that.
$10 million building. We
Oh,
saw. We don't know.
Chris, you were just
We
going.
don't
to
know.
say-
We don't know because it never made it past somebody
We
giving
didn't
us a
approve.
presentation. We never approved, we never said to move to the next phase, and I don't think there's any
None of us
way
wanted-
that.
No,
Anybody was-
we know
yeah.
that. That's why the committee was formed and.
Well, we spent
Right, well, then let's get it
$32,000.
straight. I mean,
Yeah.
that was kind of an accusation. Let's make sure that it's understood. We didn't approve it.
I know that.
We never approved it.
I know that.
So.
I didn't
and
think
we
there was
didn't
any
want it.
appetite anywhere.
There was no appetite for it. I mean, we sat,
Sure.
Abe and I sat on a building committee with them, and went through the stuff, and what they brought to us was a $31 million thing. I said, absolutely no, this isn't on it. You need to change this. You need to come back with something else. And then we saw the same thing you saw at the meeting when it was unveiled that we were now doing a $21 million or $22 million
I
thing,
know.
which was still a no.
So,
It was
Mr.
a
Mayor,
hard
can I have the
no.
floor again, please?
Yes, yes, sure.
So after I dropped that turd, sorry. I'd like to clean it up a little bit, because my whole point was, let's just not waste time, right? So the council has no desire to go down that route. Let's start talking about what we want this group to do. And what's some other options? Because at the end of the day, unless one person changes an opinion, this is a waste of time to talk about this building. That's all I was trying to do. So I totally can sympathize and empathize with the feelings you're feeling on that side. And that is part of the challenge with having a city advisory committee is you bring a recommendation, whether or not the city council does something is not up to you. While I do agree more with your recommendation, unless someone changes, it's a waste of time to talk about it. So totally get it. I think I have a hard stop at 6 o'clock. That's maybe selfish of me, but I think we need to take some time to start talking about what do we want this group to do? What do we, if they have a desire to do anything based on what just happened? And what are some of our options so that we can actually move the ball forward rather than just recycle the conversation over and over again.
I just don't think we're doing our job unless we calculate what is the cost gonna be for all these various
I agree.
scenarios. My personal belief is that this cost is, this could be, other than doing nothing and just changing the door locks and doing all the minimal things and not doing anything. This is the least cost alternative. I think doing the lease for 5 years and then having to go out and build again, that's gonna be the most expensive. I don't have an issue with looking for land. In fact, I'd like to put out a notice saying, if anyone want to donate land, we put your name on the building that we eventually might build someday. But that can be done, we can be looking for land all the time. I think we're not doing our job unless we know what costs are gonna be this option versus this option. Just taking this and stopping, and I don't agree that if we remodel this thing, it can be a long-term solution. For city offices and a city chamber. I don't understand why it would not be.
And that's why we wanted to expand it, that's what our proposal was, get more offices in it. That would easily meet the requirement for future office space. We considered all this, we looked out 10 years or 20 years and said, are we gonna need to add staff? Yes, we will. We need to add more square footage, it's all part of it. This option meets the requirements, but, and you know, this could be a nice building once we stick some money in remodeling. It's not gonna fall down tomorrow, just because it's old.
Well, not just that, I think when the building was built to house Roadbury, they probably back then they had no intention that it was gonna be a. City hall essentially, and look at where we are today, so. I agree with Bill and Brad that it still has potential with some remodeling and some, updates, obviously doors and other things, but. I think it's a very viable option, and also like Tom said, I think, here for the taxpayers and trying to do the most efficient, most effective. Bang for the buck, essentially.
Chris, I wanted to go back to what you were going to say about growth. What makes you think that we're gonna have a huge growth span here in the next decade or two? Cause I'm not seeing the data. And everything that I
So
know.
the Met Council data is unreliable, always has been, we've always exceeded it.
Okay.
And there was never any conversation around the latest ones, right? So they're just basically somebody threw a dart at the dartboard and said, here's your number. Right? But you look at where growth is happening. Growth is at the Savage City border right now, right? There's a pipe there. If the right conditions exist, some developer is gonna buy some property and apply for a development. It's gonna happen. It's happened, we saw a concept plan, but the developer decided not to go through with it in the past. We are, looking at obtaining funding for sewer and water to some of the older neighborhoods in Credit River right now. We go ahead and do that, which is a very well needed project. There's, in that northwest quadrant, there's several hundred acres that could be developed around that. So there's opportunities for it. We have to think about that.
I understand.
Right? I mean, I'm not saying that, hey, let's go out there and advertise that, hey, this is open. But you just have to be realistic about the economics of the situation. At some point, those people are gonna want to sell their land.
So speaking of that, and we talked about. Is this an option or not to rebuild here or whatever the case might be?
Mhm.
And I agree with Abe. If it's gonna be a no, then go waste our time. then, is there a lease option, a possible one or an alternative to what was presented? Or buying land, there is a fourth option. Annex some land, we'll annex Spring Park and they already have a building over there for City Hall. A really nice building for City Hall.
You
Has
just
that ever
can't
been
go,
talked about or considered?
you just can't go out and annex other parts.
You
of
can
the
have
township.
conversations.
You should, because when you get to a certain number of acres, in order to get there, you'd be well over that acreage to get there. In either direction, north or south.
Cedar Lake. I mean,
Then you're going,
they own land.
yeah. So then you end up like, for example, Newmarket Township, you'd end up with a whole bunch of roads that they haven't maintained for many years. Remember when Mike was on the board down there, and he tried to redo them all in 1 year, it was into a how many $1 million road project in 1 year?
You're talking about paving maintenance?
Mhm.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I can't speak for that.
And the other side of that, Tom, I'd be open to a plan that had, if we were looking at something, to say, hey, let's find a realtor or somebody that can help us buy a piece of land in the city. And at least then you have something that you can start to plan for. It doesn't mean you're building it today, but you have something you can plan on. And just like all of our capital plans, you build it out with a financial plan to pay for that over time.
I really thought that's why we were formed.
I thought that was gonna be the output too.
So,
I really hope
but
that
it was
the output.
taken off the table for some reason.
I don't know how that was taken off the table.
Was it in our scope?
It wasn't in our scope.
If I could point out, I mean, I'm just looking at the formation and the establishment of the committee. And the primary objectives, 2.3, and I'll read it, was research and discuss options and alternatives to the current government center project. Example, phases of the project, remodeling or rebuilding a government center on the current site, or any other visible or viable alternatives that may better enable long-term city services.
It's not land.
But that could be, or couldn't be.
Well, Jay, you were liaison to the committee.
Yeah.
And Abe were, did you guys talk about land and
That's
give them direction?
briefly. I mean,
Yeah.
it was, yeah.
Was there direction given at that point from you guys at that time? I don't know. I wasn't on. a
No,
liaison.
but there was, I think we did discuss, go back and look at it. We did discuss an opportunity that I explored, which was actually in Prior Lake. Land that was previously in Credit River had been annexed by Prior Lake
Mhm.
and was now being serviced by city water and sewer. There were two pieces and that was created, it was a divided property that was created by some of the
By
road
the
work
road.
that happened.
That parcel is still available.
The large parcel, the building, there was a building on the smaller one, which was about, I wanted to say it was like 600,000. Something like that for a small property, and the other piece of property was about 2 million. We did look at that.
Mhm.
But then at the same time, now it's part of it's not available. And I think it just really, if you ask me, I was a little disappointed with it because it seemed like what we did was we just, the whole committee zoned in on one option and we didn't really explore everything else.
But we had land.
I can finish, that as we were doing that, we had a meeting at the end of this thing where, it came up that we had a council meeting and it was over employees and everything else. And there seemed to all of a sudden become a dire need to redo this building or redo something to make some things happen. There was another meeting. I didn't actually get to attend that one. And I don't know that it was actually publicly noticed or anything else, but it happened. And it happened outside of Credit River. We explored, or the committee explored, rental of temporary rental of some office space. And that was there but that was also something that hasn't really been, it was brought forward in a letter to us. And at the same time, a lease option, there became something that was here that looked at it. And I looked at it. I went out that same day, just before the council meeting, looked at it, met with the owner that was offering it up. To me, I really changed my mind on a lot of things and I felt that that was the right thing to do. I still am kind of a little bit hung up on this building as being voting and meetings And then the rest of it can take place over there, you know, and we still need a voting, you know, we still need that. It was suggested to me by another resident that we ought to rent 2 of those spaces over there and actually move the whole works over there. I don't know that I'm there yet on that. But, you know, it's just, I would like to see more input on this. And one thing about it is I do know that that opportunity to rent that is probably not gonna last a lot longer because
There'll be others.
There may or may not be. There isn't anything else that's planned in Credit River.
Well, I want to go back to the land because we were ready to discuss this at one of the meetings.
Yeah,
Until at one of your board meetings, it was killed on our scope to pursue. So we did talk about it.
okay.
I did a lot of research on this. One of your council
That is
members knows
interesting.
that. And a lot of us did some research on land options. There are some very good land options out there, in fact, even donation. That were really never really explored. We never had the opportunity to do it. We killed it because of that. Now, we're, you know,
Okay.
we got to the point where we're not gonna waste any more time on something that we don't have the scope. And then when I heard that we weren't doing we didn't do our job, what exactly does that mean? I don't want, you know, I'm not putting you on the spot. I just want to hear from you.
I don't think it's worthwhile going through that again, Tom, because again, to
There was
your
nothing
point,
that
we're
nothing that
not,
went through. I mean,
we're not
we never
hashing
got an
back.
answer. I can't respond in a open forum. I'm asking you now at a workshop, which is not
Right.
formal.
But again,
It's
we're not
just-
making any progress to getting to what you said before. How do we get to a spot where we're talking about a plan moving forward?
Okay.
And again, we have 45 minutes left.
So the problem
In our
here is
time.
everything that's been discussed or not discussed so far has been temporary in nature. A 5 to 10 year horizon, and that's it. There's nothing, I do not see a building that's designed for a 40-year life cycle, which is already now more than 60 years old. Being something, we're looking at putting some Band-Aids on it and making it last for another 5 to 10 years. Or maybe 15, you know, I'm not gonna say what its absolute horizon and what our needs are. That's part of what we should have probably figured out. We didn't study any growth. We came with the premise that there was gonna be no growth. And so, you know, I'm sorry, I got a different opinion out of it, but it just.
Suggested adding all the offices, that's why we're talking about expanding. That we were talking about adding 30% more square footage to accommodate future growth. We talked about all this, you were in those meetings.
I was, and I got a different opinion of it.
Well, it's not a different- oh, you got it.
Yeah, well, I mean, you came forward with this thing and we proved that we didn't need any new space other than, you know, just what we have, and that was it. We don't need, we're just gonna continue to do everything that we're gonna do. There is gonna be no growth, according to the Met Council and according to the reports that we got, there's gonna be no growth in Credit River. We just approved 75 homes for Credit River, a development with that. There's another development that's we're gonna probably see it within a year or so. And maybe 2 that may expand Credit River population by another couple hundred homes over on the east side. That's moving.
And what does that mean for more
Well-
staff? You have to add 5 people because we have 2 new homes.
Well, that's what you guys should have figured out.
We did. You know, we.
But you figured out that we didn't need anything.
So now you're telling us
Yeah.
we didn't do our job too, but we did.
I
We
kind
did.
of, well, that was the kind of a little bit the opinion I got out of it.
We got accurate requirements, unlike what we spent $40,000 on, the whole big building thing, which was ridiculous. Tons of new staff, tons of square footage. That was inaccurate.
And it
Ours
didn't happen.
is more realistic,
And it didn't happen.
but we wasted $40,000. So how do we go in and hire a consultant and pay them 25 grand or whatever the amount of money was without giving them a budget? When they came back with a $31 million proposal, that was your fault. For not telling them, I wouldn't go have an architect design a house for me and give them the budget. That was all wasted money.
Let me wrap this up. There are 3 council members that are not going to support the recommendation that we looked at over a year to put together. We looked at land, we looked at 4 options for this building, this property right here, but that's not sufficient for 3 of you. The proposal that's come out for the lease agreement for the Kruger Properties building, that does not pass the smell test. We've looked into that significantly.
Who's we? All of us.
Several committee members and myself, yes. That building is industrial commercial. It is not meant for professional offices. You have a storage area for the road grader now at Gallagher's. Steve and Tom met with them at length regarding that. It's there. Our recommendation is to sell the pickup truck that we have. And not have that used by an independent contractor because of the risk involved to the city. If there's an accident with that truck and someone's injured or killed, the city will be sued. We did offer another lease option. That is the Norix building. According to Minnesota statutes, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but we've done the research too. City offices can be outside the city territory, the city lines, but city council members and voting, council meetings and voting have to be in the city. So you could use that building for this. It's the Norix building. I office there. They haven't.
But Peter asked me for time to clarify his position.
Thanks. Tom is right, Vern,
He's way in the back. Same.
right. I did look into this after the meeting. I would say it a little bit differently, Tom. The law doesn't say you can have an office outside of the city. There's just nothing in the law that says you can't. And so that could be an important legal distinction, but there's nothing, the league says there's nothing that prohibits it. Several of my colleagues have that same point of view.
Thank you, Peter. Which means you could have city offices in a professional building at half the cost of what that rental is for the proposed lease agreement. And it is professional offices, it is secured building. There are private offices. There's a full kitchen, a full exercise room, men's and women's separate bathrooms with showers, large conference rooms, 2 of them, very large conference rooms. It serves the purpose. And I'm not saying that because I office there, but they have a number of open offices they're trying to lease. They're on Facebook trying to lease them. So it would work. So we have looked at other leasing options. You don't know what's going to be on the other side of the bay you're looking at. Is it industrial? Is it going to be noisy? Is it going to be welding? Is it going to be smells coming through? You have the manure smell from Casey's farm. I went over there. I drove the property. I got out and there's the smell. Is that going to filter into the building? Is that the kind of office presentation you want for city offices? So if the 3 of you, 1 of you are not going to change, then, because we came back here with a request for an extension of our time through September 30th of 2026 to continue working with this council. And then we gave you objectives for us to work on as well. If that's not going to be on an agenda in the very near future, well, then we're done. And you've left a very bad taste in a number of cities' residents' mouths because of this. You should have never appointed this committee if that's the case. If you never intended to do anything with this building in the first place, you wasted our time. You wasted residents' time. You wasted money. And that's not what a city council should be. So if that's the way it is, we're done. We're over. And we'll, take our own, road from here and what we do. But that lease proposal for that building with Kruger Properties is not appropriate. I'll leave it at that.
Well, okay. Anybody have any other additional comments?
Yeah, I do.
Jay?
You looked for my phone records, you looked for my emails. We have to operate under transparency. Where's the transparency for the meetings that you've had? You've had multiple meetings, multiple conversations on this. You've had all of that. You're a public committee. You were
No, we're
acting
not.
as a public.
And then
committee.
we're
That's fine.
We're just a bunch of guys.
Private citizens, just having conversations.
Yeah, but why would we continue the thing if you've shown us something different?
Every
Why would
meeting,
you ask me to continue? I'm not saying us. Why would you ask me to continue it if you've shown me something completely different?
Well, I made a motion to continue the group for another year, a couple months ago, because I felt we were really going down this path and we hadn't talked about it, and there were still concerns that people had. That was why. That's how what finance would be doing.
everyone on this committee believes this building could serve the city of Credit River for a number of years if it's expanded and or remodeled. We firmly believe that. And there's $605,000 or more sitting in the city accounts from the federal COVID money that can only be used for city council purpose. And we believe that would cover the cost to remodel this building into something that could be usable for 10, 15, or 20 years. We all believe that firmly. That's why we're coming back to you and asking for the extension, and then asking for an expansion of our objectives so we can work with the city staff, architects, general contractors to make it actually come into a reality. That's
My
why
question, are we looking at something else? Because this is all still temporary.
we're not, but at least one council member is.
But that was the job that you were to have, was to also look at other options.
We did. We talked about the North building. We didn't know about the other Kruger Properties
Jay,
building.
I guess I'm a little confused. You're our liaison. You said liaisons. Why wouldn't you say you're not there yet? Well, what are we talking about? That's what a liaison does, provides guidance to us. And at no point in time in the meeting did you ever say, I don't hear us doing this or what if we do this? Ever, okay?
I think you heard me say explore rental.
And we did,
Okay, you did.
yeah.
Yes.
So we did that.
Any other rentals? The idea or the concept of it and what we would need. I mean, basically, this thing
Right
went
there
through.
with us, step by step, yeah, every opportunity. And I guess I'm not gonna get all upset here, but it's just
Right.
that was
We should.
that much trouble. But it seems really strange to me. I mean, you're leaving our credit report, you're moving away, and yet you want to saddle us with all this taxes, spend our money. And leave. I think that's.
No, I want to fix things. I want to make sure that I want to make sure that the
Remember,
future is
we
right.
had a meeting together, we voted on what our city, what our value statement is.
Preliminary levy.
What I think came out of there is that there was, I don't know, reluctance to change. Want to keep it the way it is,
Preserve is it, right?
preserve. And everything that we're talking about here, we bumping the side of the building out here, we've been staying here for 10 years. I think it's not changing a lot. It's preserving what we have. Moving into an industrial building and spending $500,000-600,000 over 5 years is crazy. That's not what everybody I mean, I doubt you find too many people in this city that would like to do that. You guys really, you go out and talk to people? I'm sure you do. I don't know who you talk to, but everybody that is taught, that we've talked to, which is part of our responsibility, have not echoed that at all. They're not in, I mean, they see this building here, yeah, it could be some work or there could be another option to go somewhere else. But even if you want to go somewhere else, it's gonna take a while. Fixing this up, you haven't even figured out what the cost would be yet. I mean, that's where we wanted to get to. It's not a good option until you figure out what the cost is. And yet you want to stop right now
Mhm.
and not even consider that. That seems really a bad idea.
I like to dovetail what.
Well, let's just a minute, that's a question. What do you think?
Solid question.
I've thought about it for a while. And when I actually ran for this office,
Yeah.
people said to me, the thing I heard often, well, I guess now that we're a city, we're gonna have to go out and build a new city hall, we're gonna have to do all of that. And I always stated this one thing. We need a new city hall. We need to actually do that. And I haven't really ever changed my mind on it, other than I have looked at some of these other things. This whole exercise of going and getting and spending 20 or 30 or whatever, all of that was never on my radar. It's a few $1,000. I mean, or a few $1 million is what an overall land, building, everything. I mean, we've got some surrounding communities that have done similar with that. Newmarket did a nice job. Newmarket Township did a nice job with theirs. And Spring Lake Township did a nice job with theirs. They didn't spend 20 million. They didn't spend any of that. I mean, I would say that we did figure out in this whole exercise of a year, we did figure out one good thing came out of it to me, which was we found out that the reason that our snowplow contractor didn't want to do anything for us was because we got sued for a $1,400 mailbox. And we got a contract with them and we got everything fixed with that. And we don't need to be talking about snowplows and we don't need to be talking about anything. And that's something that you guys did. We all did, our administrator, our temporary administrator that we had, that got solved out of that. That's a good thing. That's a really, really good thing. But we also came into this thing, then it kind of took a path where it was like, we're just gonna solve that we're gonna provide that there is no need. And we have a premise that there's no need for any of this. We don't need to do anything. We can just put a Band-Aid on a couple of things and spend some money and we got money here to do it. And that's where the focus went. And it never came back to anything else. And we never looked at anything. I would love to see it go to something else and we'd look at a few other things. I really would. But there was something to prove. And that happened, and it just, we had to prove that we didn't need anything. City council was really wrong. And, that's where it wound up. Where was the rental thing came when the rental thing came up afterwards, after it was obvious that we didn't want to do that. And that all of a sudden there really wasn't need. I'm still looking at it. I'm looking at a quote for a double wide construction trailer that a person sent to us, that it makes sense as a temporary thing to put to office people in. There's a few things that we can do with that. But again, it's a temporary thing.
Well, how does
All
that
of
address
this
that weather issue so that they were
It doesn't.
concerned about? Well, then why?
It doesn't, but then we didn't actually look at anything to harden this building, which a pole barn isn't much different than.
No, this would be
than a
hard,
home.
according to the proposal, the bathrooms that would be built, the men's and female, wouldn't that be weatherproof? Or no?
Well,
That's why we hire and not.
I don't think that was ever detailed enough to cover.
Bill, so we don't know that.
Yeah, we do a block.
Sure. The $10,000 option. you can
Sure.
get on, you could-
So, the thing is that here we sit, we're just really we're arguing about all of this, but we've not provided any future of anything. We haven't, we're. If you provided me with something that I could say, hey, that's a really sound solution. It would be. But right now, what I got, I don't agree with it.
Let me ask you this question then, Jay. So it's obvious. The council feels, or most of you guys feel, that we wasted our time over the last year. Didn't give you any good solutions.
I don't think, yeah, you did.
So,
The
okay,
snowplow thing is if you did nothing else for the whole thing, that snowplow thing was actually worth every.
that was already in.
That's all worth.
But it appears to me that you guys need some help. You're not gonna get it with Steve alone and with the people you had. You need some help if you wanna have some buy-in from the public on whether it's lease, land, rebuild, or whatever. Do you even want our help? If you gave us clear instructions like Tom was stating, and we agree on what those should be, and we go down that path and find those solutions for you, is it something you would want our help? Or not?
I would always want help.
Then I guess my next question is, I think the city council shouldn't make a decision whether they want GCAC to continue or not. And then if you do, then let's have some really clear instructions on what you want us to do. Land, lease, whatever, I don't care. We can put it together pretty quick. And we got a lot of data that could put it together really quick. So you let us know if you want GCAC to continue and help you with finding a solution, we'll definitely do that. I'd be happy to donate more time and forget about what happened last year. Move forward.
I'm with Tom, as long as we can agree that the options that we bring forward are gonna be honestly looked at.
And we
Versus,
agree on it,
versus a,
not 3 to
a
2.
lease sign.
but we all agree, the council agrees that, okay, if you guys can do this, and we have some real solutions for it, we'll support what GCAC can deliver. If you guys are willing to do that, and you want GCAC to help you, then I'm on board.
It wouldn't hurt my feelings to walk through that exercise to see if we could agree on.
It would hurt your
No,
feelings.
no, no, I said
Oh.
it wouldn't hurt my feelings to
No.
walk through the exercise of walking up those steps to see if we can come to agreement on.
You mean the council walk you through it, or if you want to do a workshop like this and walk through?
Well, I think it needs to start, I think the council needs to,
take some time to think that through a little bit. I don't think it's something that's gonna happen today.
No, it's not gonna happen today. I
It's not
understand
something
that.
happened today. I think we need to take some careful consideration on if we're gonna do something, what are those steps? What would be helpful? What would be appropriate
Yep.
to move forward?
And put all the cards on the table
Mhm.
and just, let's go forward and if at the end of the day, if the lease option is the best option, you go forward. If it's not, then we could take a different direction, whether it's land or rebuild or nothing.
Right.
Tom, I have a question for you. Where do you get that this truck is being used by a private contractor? You keep making that remark.
You're an independent contractor for the city, Leroy. You've indicated publicly that you use the truck fairly often. It's a city truck. Under IRS regulations, they have the distinction between an employee and an independent contractor. An independent contractor is a person who provides his own tools of the trade.
Great.
You're not providing your own truck, you're using the city truck. That puts the city at risk. It also puts the city at risk if you are considered an employee by the IRS for the city withholding taxes from your contract amount to pay for social security, federal income tax, unemployment compensation taxes, etc. Since you're also an employed individual by the city, you're a city employee because you're a paid city council member. And then you're a contractor, but using city property. According to the IRS regs, you probably lean towards being considered an employee for everything under those factors that the IRS considers if you're a contractor or you're an employee. That's something the council needs to consider. Talk to Peter. He should be able to advise you on that. I've looked at that. I'm a lawyer. I've looked at it. And there's a real issue there, especially with the liability risk that if, God forbid, you were in an accident while you were driving the truck, doing your independent contractor work and damaged property, injured someone or killed someone, the risk lies with the city. The city would most likely be sued for that.
Because you're not showing yourself insurance wise as an independent contractor as well.
You may have, liability insurance that you provided a certificate to the city for, but the city would also be sued because the city owns that truck. You do not. You should be providing your own truck as an independent contractor.
The
That's
city owns that truck and I'm being paid by the city,
yes,
not as an independent contractor.
There's two,
Two separate.
I understand. But in your independent contractor duties, Leroy, you're supposed to provide your own tools of your trade of what you're doing, not use property owned by the city to conduct your independent contractor duty.
Tom, there's a separation there. And I don't think Leroy just explained that well. For some of the tasks that Leroy does, he works as an employee for the city. He has a signed affidavit that during these hours, he is working as an employee of the city. He also provides ditch mowing as a contractor using his own equipment to do that with his own insurance to do that.
How does
So
he
the-
pull the trailer though and it's ditch? You have your own truck that.
His
does
own
it?
tractor. Is it?
Cause I thought you were pulling it 2 weeks ago on a Saturday morning. I saw the city truck with the ditch.
Pulling what?
Thought it was you.
No,
I
my
thought
truck
it
hasn't
was
been
on-
out of the shed in 3 weeks, so.
There's another good reason to get rid of it, huh?
No, it's not. It's used. When we need it, we need it. It's kind of nice, instead of calling out Gallagher's at $180 an hour to run out, clean up some of these roads when they drift in. And things like that, but nobody else seems to care about, but that's fine.
If there's a clear distinction, Leroy, that when you are acting as an independent contractor, you are not using the city truck, then you fall within IRS guidelines.
Right.
It was our understanding from public comments that you were using it regularly. So we thought that was being done on
The only,
independent contractor.
the only thing he's an independent contractor for is the ditch mower.
Is ditch mower.
And he uses his tractor and mower.
Okay,
Yeah. Everything else is an hourly paid position.
And that's what it says in the thing we just approved. In the,
Yeah,
that was-
resolution. That he's an employee for some things and a contractor, but I thought it was.
Two separate resolutions.
All we did was approve a ditch mowing contract.
Yes,
That
but
part.
the 2023 resolution, when you first started doing this. I didn't think it sets, well, in this case, it's an employee, in this case, it's an independent contractor. I thought it said it's an independent contractor for this work. And then it listed out different hourly rates. One hourly rate if he uses his own equipment, and if he doesn't use any equipment, it was a lower rate. So I don't remember,
If
I'll have
we
to go
can-
back and look.
And we have to go back and look and read, but my understanding is that, and the way it's always been, is that when he is doing work, like public works stuff, that is
as an employee of the city.
If the council were to reconstitute the Citizens Advisory Committee for any length of time, there would have to be a promise of full transparency. What do I mean by that? From the council too.
Okay.
Just,
Yeah, for this reason. We gave our final report on May 21st. 8 days later, here comes the lease agreement, which we knew nothing about. Our term was still a month before it would end in the end of June. So if there was another option out there that we should have been looking at, that we didn't know existed, we should have been informed of that so we could look into it. We were not. It was brought up in August and 2 council members didn't know about it even at that point. So if there's going to be any extension here, then there's got to be a commitment by this council and everyone on it for full transparency. Our term ended June 30th. Every meeting we had during that term was opened, noticed, and a summary was put on the city website. We followed all the rules. After June 30th, we didn't exist and we still don't exist. We don't exist today, but we're here to talk to you as residents about the recommendations.
As I said, I wouldn't hurt my feelings to walk through the exercise of talking about what we could do. In response to Tom's statement before, so. Instead of back and forth on that, we can leave it at, we'll talk about that, or what that looks like.
That would be acceptable.
Can you give us some kind of a time frame on that? It's kind of like Christmas. I want to know what the package is, what's in the package.
So when we have it, so someday we'll come with a box and a ribbon on it for you to open up and there'll be a paper and it gives you, here's.
No, seriously, though.
No, you're not wrong, right? I mean, if we're gonna have an action, then we should have a goal to set,
Yeah.
right?
This took 2 months to set up, so.
This doesn't involve all these people, right? This involves the council. We have to figure out how to accomplish getting everybody in the same piece.
Jay was saying we didn't have, give them anything, and we gave layouts of the floor. Right. So the presentation. Yeah, was presented.
I'm just thinking through, sorry, I'm looking at my calendar.
Yes.
I think by the end of November would be a fair timeline. And I only say that because we also have some budget, we have budget discussions going on. You know, I know we have some workshops dedicated to that piece as well in the next several months, so.
So it is a Christmas gift.
If
And then
possibly,
yeah.
well, Thanksgiving for sure.
Is there anything you want from us in the meantime?
Don't exist.
I know.
It's very simple.
I know we don't exist, but we could exist.
Stop making off like, yeah.
I don't know yet today. Because again, I have, you know, maybe once the discussions start to happen around what specific items we want to talk about, there might be. But I think we can reach out at that point.
And we're not gonna be surprised with some other option at a city council meeting in the next couple of months.
well, I kind of have an issue with it kicking out all the way into that period of time. What are we doing with the present situation that we have in the town or the city hall? Because it's not fair to employees and everything else to just let this thing go while we try to figure out what we're doing.
I brought a couple of quotes in because we need 2 quotes for everything. And the whole legal. Redoing the doors and stuff, so. That went by the wayside too.
I don't know that it ever hit our agenda.
Yeah, you brought them in and we just didn't discuss them yet.
Yeah, it never were on the agenda.
So we're gonna wait till snowballs are hitting us in the ass to tear doors out of here and fix them?
Well, you know, there's an issue with that, and then we also have a frost heave issue with the sidewalk and everything else that's out there, so. You know, we need to, it's more than just replacing a door, we should be figuring this thing out, because we could put a new door in. We won't be able to swing it out. Because the sidewalk's gonna raise up into it like it did last year. So, you know, I'm all for. At least figuring out what we need to do here, I mean, go back to this thing. We've started to do things. I mean, this is what this workshop's for, we got another few minutes yet. As far as finding out, if we go back to the thing, if we want to figure out what we have to do here. The water. Probably, I'm gonna suggest that we figure out a different testing process so that we can at least establish whether or not we have bacteria in our water or not. That's kind of that shouldn't wait till November to find out. I'm gonna suggest that we explore a little further the septic design and permit setup to figure out if we can do something with this. Because I'm still thinking, well,
Let's let Jay finish.
Yeah.
Please.
Sorry.
if we're going to do something or we're gonna completely eliminate this,
Well, we are, that's what I thought.
not necessarily. You heard from me what? Eliminate it, or did I
I
say
heard from three
reuse?
council members. that
50
they-
minutes ago, I asked the question if we should do that, and you said no.
No, so let's stop talking about
50
it.
minutes ago.
Right, well, I don't recall saying no, hard no on everything, because what you heard me say was. I still think we ought to reuse this facility for meetings, voting, et cetera. I never said no. So, no, I think if we're gonna do that, we should be thinking that we should either eliminate it completely. And say we're not gonna do it, or we should at least figure those things out. In the meantime, you still have employees here, so what are we gonna do?
I think if we're not gonna remodel this,
Employees here.
if we're not gonna remodel this, then we should address the employees' safety concerns, put in an air filter, do whatever the door things have to be done. And move on from this. So we're gonna have to spend some money because. We don't wanna remodel it, we don't wanna do that, so that's a temporary thing we think we have to do. Moving to another lease is, we don't have to, that's overkill. We can just fix this place, I'd rather fix this place and then look for land, if this isn't an option. I don't wanna lease, I don't wanna lease, I wanna look for land.
Especially a long-term lease.
Yes, 5-year lease is right, I mean, that's not. It's not short term, that's long term, right? So, those are my thoughts. I really think we're not doing our job though by not knowing how much this would cost. And I really think it would be a 20-year life. Of this building if we did move out. I wish we would have got down to that point where we could say, yeah, we're doing this, or we can do this. It would have been nice to know that. Any other option, in my opinion, other than fixing the doors, putting an air filter in. Any other option is gonna be much more expensive. And I don't even know if we can use the 600,000 to cover the lease payments, because I thought about that, but I think it has to be capital. Can't be operating expense, so. Our taxes will go up if we do a lease.
And I don't
And I'm
think
not
anybody,
for
I bet nobody out here wants anything other than for us to remodel this so the employees are happy. Right? Does anybody wanna go build a new building or?
Brad,
This is a workshop. Right?
this is the workshop here. This isn't a public hearing. It's not open forum.
All right.
I'd like to.
I agree that we need to be able to retain employees. And I think we can remodel this, make it into a really nice building, so the employees wanna be here. We can add enough space to accommodate some growth in the future. It meets all the requirements and it's by far the cheapest. And I don't know why we wouldn't do it.
One thing, Brad, if you're gonna remodel this building, then you might as well tear it completely down and start over, because this is a floating slab. That's why our doors and sidewalk outside, we have nothing to pin the sidewalk to, other than probably rotten wood under the door, I don't know. You know, that's why everything's moving, right, look out that door right now.
And that's something the
So-
architect would probably tell us, right? Leroy?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
For however much it costs and.
That's the smartest thing I heard from this council and care. There you go. I agree with that.
I agree it has some challenges, but I
It
don't.
does have challenges, but you
This
still gotta
building
do
could last
the ground test.
many years. If we
The,
address them.
the ground test is, the ground is fine, just because there are a few oil spots.
Yeah.
That came up from a grader,
I hope you're right.
it's, yeah,
Do you remember when did we pull the fuel barrel out of the ground?
Kathy, when did the,
What's that?
well, when did we pull the fuel barrel out? It's been about 2004.
It's been what, at least a decade?
And,
More than that.
Yeah,
Two decades, I think.
and they came out and tested, and everything was fine out there where the fuel barrel was. And the floor was good at that time too, so it's not that we're sitting on a contamination dump here.
Site.
We don't know that. That's what the resolution was requested for in the first place, to see if we are. Cause
Seems
when I
like-
go home, I'm gonna stink. It smell like diesel.
Go to a building
No,
60
it
years
smells like
old, you're
diesel.
gonna smell too, you know?
Yeah, I know that, but
Right,
it should be
this thing
smelling
was
like
heated with
diesel.
fuel oil for 30 years.
Probably more than 30 years.
I don't.
Well, when did the gas come in?
I don't know.
All right, well, I think we've got some homework to do. That we told them we'd do. I think it gives us a place to start.
Steve, you know what to do? I mean, we're putting the kibosh on.
What is the direction for staff for Monday? What do you want to see on the agenda?
Yeah.
On the water, concerned about it. I know we have drinking water, we have to make sure.
Well-
We have drinking water here.
So I think, Jake, that again, so Steve said that he's still waiting for final information. So before we run off doing something different on this, we need to wait for this final.
Yeah, and we have drinking water here.
We do. Right, that is not a problem.
I could bring a couple cases and donate it if you needed.
Drinking water.
We've got a bottle of water over there by the door. Tom,
Oh, I
that's,
see it. I never noticed.
I don't know that we have something for Monday.
I think a great place to start would be for the sake of the residents and the advisory committee, I think it'd be good to have some documentation of why we don't think it's a viable option. You know, I think the only thing we heard tonight was the floating slab. I think we're gonna just drive ourselves nuts and our residents nuts if we don't have some documentation. So we don't have to rehash these things over and over again. If it's not a viable option and maybe some resident says, well, I don't believe that, and they're gonna go and talk to an architect and maybe we have some different ideas, but I think we gotta get it documented of why we don't wanna take this path. So that we have some rationale for our decision, because right now it kind of feels like I don't like it, we can't do it, therefore we're just not gonna do it. So I would think that'd be a great place to start.
I agree, that's great. Yeah, I'd say we need to have 8 offices, okay, with a solid requirement, and we'll see if we could remodel it to 8 offices or something. We haven't heard any specifics that this building isn't meeting. Leroy is concerned about the floating slab, yep, all right, it's concerned, but
What do you suggest?
I'm suggesting that the majority of the council that doesn't want to continue moving with this option of the existing city hall, write down why it's not a viable option. Because then over the course of this time, whichever direction we go, because I don't know if this is the right option or not, but I think it's a very valuable exercise to go on the path to see if it is a viable option. And I think we're cutting ourselves short. So if we're gonna go down 5, 6, 7 different paths, I think it'd be good to have some documentation of here's what the option number 1, here's what we found with it. Here's option number 2, here's what we found with it. So when we go to a public event where we invite all the residents in, here's some documentation, here's the options we looked at. You may still not agree with it, but here's the options and here's why we thought it was a good option and here's why we thought it was a bad option.
I agree that kind of goes back to where we were. I mean, don't try to, here's a concept and here's what it costs. And then you got other ideas, which would be, go buy land, go buy X amount of acres, which would be enough for the future. And put a $4 million building, $3 million, whatever you think it's gonna cost. That would be, so you're gonna spend $1 million on the land, because. Depending on what you want, it was what, I mean, they didn't spend a lot of money yet,
Spring Lake was like 1.3.
yeah, and we had written down what, New Market was, it's a very nice building, but. That was, those costs have changed a lot.
Yes, they
have tremendous, so, if that cost $1 million, it's probably double that. I think it costs about that much.
So technically, Abe,
So you could have what. So when you, at some point in time, you're gonna sit down and say, we're gonna buy land. This happens, and we're gonna build this building, it's gonna cost this much. Yeah, if we looked at this option, it would have cost this much. But we don't want, it doesn't work for us because of this. The answer isn't floating slab or a little wall out there below the frost line, it's the door, that's all you got.
Okay,
I mean, this is the first time.
this is the difference between Spring Lake and Newmarket and Credit River is. Each of those own that property.
Right.
They built on property they own. So
I think
that's a big difference.
Leroy, I'm not saying that we shouldn't get land,
No, okay.
we were just,
I just,
we were told not to touch that, okay?
Mhm.
We didn't get to debate whether you buy it as an insurance policy. Okay, that wasn't there, nobody told us to do that. But you don't have the answer yet, what this option costs. And it never will unless you go down what we recommend. And it doesn't cost you a lot to have that.
that's what they said the other time.
Yeah, well. You could have us involved.
Okay.
Well, you gotta remember, there's. Oh.
Yep.
Takes a lot of time, okay, and there's a lot of things that go on in your staff, there was a. Staff that one time was headed in a direction. Y'all know what was going on. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Abe, technically, we did have a vote, or I made a motion couple months ago to accept their recommendations, which their recommendation was the remodeling.
No, it's not remodeled,
Well,
it is to get information, to make a decision.
There was two different things, and so it's like they'll finish his, so we know what
It
he's
was
talking
option,
about.
it was option 2, and I thought option 2,
So you're talking about,
I made a motion.
you
to
made a
accept
motion to accept the recommendation,
Their recommendation.
correct?
Which included. Yes.
So that's the time we're talking about, that,
Support option 2 to expand remodel current city hall.
right?
So technically, we already papered that, the council's not interested in that, because I couldn't get a second. So I don't know if we have to have another vote to bring it up again, it's already been, was never seconded. With you guys being, then I made a motion to expand your term for another year. I didn't get a second motion on that either, so. We've
No, that
already.
one you did. And
Did I
that
get
failed, that one failed.
Okay, it failed, okay,
Yes.
sorry, thank you for correcting me. So that one failed, so I don't think we have to do that
I
again.
don't think you got a second.
No, there was
No, that was back on, that was July or
I didn't
second
second
meeting.
it because I didn't want to put these guys in a situation where they had no
No
scope.
objectives, yeah, they're objectives. Nonetheless, it didn't, so we've already done those two things, I don't know, if we have to bring those up again.
I just think it's incomplete. So back to what Steve said, right? When we go to the public and we start to say, here's the plan. And again, it's not that they agree with everything we said, but the plan, in my opinion, can't be simply the only option we thought was that a lease at the Krieger place was the right way to go. I think that's incomplete. I think that's short-sighted. And I think we need to do our due diligence to be able to understand, is this even an option? And to get to that point, you have to be able to do some testing, to be able to say, can this be expanded to what we need?
And I agree with that, what you said, but we just found out tonight that that's never gonna fly.
I agree. So let's at least document it so we have it for writing so that everyone can look at it and say, they just didn't wanna
All right,
go through that option and figure out if it was a valid one.
all right. So there's no meeting minutes that we have with workshops, so we would have to paper what we discussed and just have it. as an agenda item, saying that we discussed and take a vote that we're not going down this path.
I think I would direct staff to work with the majority council to start some kind of documentation for our buildings center and say option number one. It did not get past consensus to go and redo the city council building. It was decided that it was not a viable option and didn't want to spend any money on it.
So a resolution,
I think we need a page on the website that has a city hall page, a project for city hall. I flat disagree with it, but with the opinion, but I think we owe it to the public to be able to say what we did.
I would also like at the next meeting to have a vote on whether we should even entertain that lease that was brought up and talk about that, because or at least have a vote to say the city council authorizes the city to proceed to look at that, because I don't think it's been authorized by anyone to do that.
The only thing was, Bill, you want to know what a build out cost would be for that? I know.
We gave direction to staff to do that at that meeting.
So anyhow.
I didn't give staff.
We did not give staff
I
direction.
think we did to get a
No,
price on build out.
No.
I think we did.
I just went about.
But
some numbers.
I'd like to at least have a vote to be on the record. Because I don't think it was ever authorized to have anyone go out and look for a lease. And I also don't think it's the city council's job to go out and look for a lease. It's the CEO of the city, which is the city administrator, to be directed to go out and do that type of work. So I just think we need to have it official that we have a vote to have, if we want to have a city council member and the city administrator do that, that's fine, but we have to have it put out there. If that's gonna be an option. And then once that's done, I have like 50 questions that I've drafted based on that August 18th meeting that I haven't presented yet, because I don't think it's been fully authorized to even talk about it, because the council never gave that authority to the city administrator to do that. So I'd like to have at least that on the next meeting.
And I hope we'll look at the lease where Tom rents at half the price before we pursue this other place. It seems crazy that we can spend twice what we have to on the pity.
I want to thank the council for giving us this time. But there are.
I think that's, yeah. I would be interested in finding out more about this other, the Norex place, but as I understand, it was what, how many square feet?
Individual private office.
There's plenty.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Because everybody works from home now, in Norris. But they represent the opposite.
I see.
Just a point of reference to having offices outside the city, because we did do that for a while. That was a mess and very confusing to the people who need to do business with us.
I miss-
Just so you know.
I mean,
That point of time, it was 6 months.
Yeah.
I
It was
understand
pretty
that there's,
messy.
that the law doesn't say we can't. But then there should be in the thing. Whether or not we should,
The reason why it started, Jay.
yeah,
With where's Tom's facility? Is if there was a build out to find an alternative. To conduct business at temporary place. And then the thought was, well. Yeah, that's pretty cheap. What if we had them consider this for a lease?
Mhm.
So that's how that whole conversation came up. But it would be a viable option if there is gonna be a tear down, rebuild, or whatever we're gonna do. Over there, because it's ready made, you guys should check it out. At the very least, just go check it out.
So just so you know, at our August 18th meeting, Bill. The motion passed 5-0 to table the lease agreement with Kruger Properties pending further answers on costs and various pieces brought up tonight and brought back at a future meeting. That was passed 5-0.
Thank you for correcting me. So I have like 50 questions that I would like to send to Steve and I have him subject them to him. If we're going down that path, which I don't think we should do it. It's not so I think the employees are gonna be less satisfied in that location than they are here. I'd rather fix this place up for $20,000 or $30,000 to spend 5 years and $500,000 in putting structure across it. I want to thank the Government Center Citizen Advisory Committee. I did go to quite a few of the meetings as a resident. Said, listen, you guys, you did a great job, I thought, so I appreciate it.
Sure, thank
All right. It's like we're ending.
you.